Hello, friends from the comic and manga world. My name is Hector,
And my name is G.
and we're here today to talk to you about our picks for the full year of 2022. So, G and I went through the list of everything that went on sale during this year for Penguin Random House, and we come up with some personal picks, uh, things that we want to suggest that you should read, but also should have available at your stores. And I this the order of this is very alphabetical. It's not has nothing to do with top or bottom and how much we like or sales. It's just like I said, very personal opinions on these, and that's it. So each one of us picked 10, and we're gonna go alternately. There's graphic novel collected editions and manga included. So we hope you really enjoyed it and that it's a useful list for you. So
Mhm.
let's get started. I believe the first one, let's see, is it mine?
Yes.
Yes, it's one of my picks. This is Fire Force Omnibus 1, which includes volumes 1 to 3. This is by Atsushi Okubudo. Okubo, sorry. It's from Kodansha. This one goes on sale on the 29th of November. And obviously, we have the other individual volumes available from Kodansha already. I love Fire Force. It's just a very straight up shonen manga. The This is from the creator of Soul Eater, so if you read or seen Soul Eater, you get the same idea. I really like this one because it has all those elements of a very good shonen manga, where you have action, you have some sort of fantasy or magic that is very unique to this world, which in this case is there's people that can control fire, but at the same time there are these spontaneous combustions that happen in humans, but also they turn into a monster. It's not just that they go on fire, but they turn into monsters. And Fire Force is this force that's created to fight that. Uh, it is again, if you love any kind of shonen, and I'm gonna go not just Soul Eater, but I'm mentioning some that we don't represent, like Naruto, One Piece, any of those. This is for you, but also like the ones that we have, like Fairy Tail. This is the kind of thing for you. And I love that it comes in a volume 1, 2, 3 combined into one, because if you read manga, you just gotta keep going and going and going. So it's great that it's coming now in an omnibus format, and it's only 19.99, which is great.
Mhm.
Next,
Next up, I had to pick Black Hammer. This is
yep,
Omnibus Volume 1. The Omnibus came out this year in October. I had read this book like a couple years back and was immediately enthralled by it. And I think this collection in trade paperback is very good, especially if you want to collect it in this way. So I highly recommend picking this up. Now, I can't say enough about how incredible this is and the world of Black Hammer is. Basically, there was a battle with anti-god, and then suddenly a band of superheroes get mysteriously expelled from their city to this strange town, and they can't get out of that town. What's strange about this town is it's so normal that it seems fake, as if it's mimicking and pretending to be a small town. So what's interesting about this and why I love it is you get to see like iconic comic book covers being reimagined, but in place of those superheroes that we um, may have known and loved for a very long time, you have these other characters like Gale, Barbalian, Abe, who is like represented here. So you get a lot of nostalgia reading this book, which is like really strange because like I feel at home reading it when I'm reading about characters who are displaced from their own home. So it's like a weird irony as like you're reading through this. So I highly recommend it. It's so good. I could
yeah.
talk about this forever. It's like in a complete world and universe that you I highly recommend jumping into.
Yeah, and it has an amazing team working on it, and of course the
Jeff
amazing Jeff
Lemire, of
Lemire,
course.
which he's been great for years and years, but I think recently he's been doing more and more stuff, and everywhere you look, you see Jeff Lemire's name on it.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. Yes. Next up is Kings of Nowhere Volume 1. And this goes actually on sale on December 6th. This was written and illustrated by Surush Barasish. And, the basic story of this is a world where some humans, uh, when they're under a lot of stress and they have a lot of emotions, they could suddenly turn into animals. And the main character is the son of this big mob boss, and it's always been like, not as strong enough to be his son, and he's always been like not as tough and all that, and then all of a sudden he turns under all the stress and all the emotion, he turns into a chimp. And so he finds these other chimps or other people that turn into chimps too. And he makes friends with them, and then they all decide to say, you know what, we're gonna get revenge on the people who bullied us and didn't think that we were good enough. And we're not only that, we're gonna basically take care of, like take over the underworld. And it's very cool. The world that is built by Soroush is amazing, and the stories are very cool, and the characters are very well developed. And it's this is volume one, and volume two it's coming out next year. Uh, it's if you like, and I'm looking at you, D, if you like stories about like mobsters and gangs and things like that, because I know you like that, G, and also, but with a kind of a twist and a little bit of fantasy in a made up world that kind of combines somewhere tropical with a big city. I highly recommend this. And what is one of my picks, and this is only 19.99 in trade paperback.
Hmm. All right, my next pick is Blue Lock. This is
Yeah.
volume one. This is a story by Kaneshiro. And this is a story about a character, Isagi, who actually loses a game in the beginning of the story at the perfunctory finals. And he gets invited to this facility with a bunch of other strikers in Japan to participate in Blue Lock, which is like this like it's like a coliseum where they battle it out, and whoever is left standing will become the striker for Japan's national team. If you lose, then your career is pretty much over. So it's high pressure. As you can imagine, it's very ruthless, which I really like.
Yeah.
And the mastermind who is controlling and who's like giving out these games and battles that they have to sort of um, win against, it's interesting because like the main character is trying to think through the psychology of the mastermind, the I guess the coach you could say, or the trainer. So it's like very psychological, which I really really much enjoy. And I'm not a soccer player myself, so like for me who's not like into the game at all, I'm like completely sold. I was like reading this nonstop in like 3 a.m. in the morning. It's so addicting. There is an anime that's out that if you're interested in watching that as well. So definitely recommend picking this one up.
Yeah, and just in time for the World Cup, which is
Oh
in a
yes.
couple of weeks.
Mhm.
It starts in a couple of weeks. Awesome. And next one of my picks is Lore Olympus, and I place it here all three volumes that we have so far. This is our Rachel Smythe, and the first volume came out last year in November. This year we got the second and the third volume. Uh, Now, for those of you who don't know, this is probably the biggest, yeah, I think the biggest webtoon, the most famous one, and the ones that that everybody, if you think about webtoon, this is the one they think about immediately. And the story is just an adaptation of sort of a modern adaptation of the story of Hades and Persephone, and sort of the romance, and but there's parties and there's like high society. So the mythological characters are in these are part of this high society, and they have their own cliques, and every character that you can think of from Greek mythology shows up on this. um, and it is very cool as far as the story, and then you get the illustrations, and they're just so beautiful. And I think this was a perfect story, and a perfect the art to put on paper too. And if you see here on the slide, you see that we publish these both in hardcover and trade paperback. Highly recommend the hardcover because it's such a beautiful thing to collect. And when you put those all of them together, the spines and everything looks so cool. I love it because it's a great adaptation. There's been so many adaptations of this story and other mythological stories, but this one is it's a little bit different. It goes a little bit beyond what's on the classic mythological stories, and Rachel kind of creates her own world, and just gets inspired by the mythology. Some of the events are exactly as you remembered. Some things are a little bit changed, and a little bit, she kind of guides them in a different way. So you do get, even though it's based on mythology, you do get some twists and turns on these stories. And again, just visually, they're stunning, as you can tell by the covers alone. Um, and I love the way that it was also organized on the paper, because obviously webtoons are kind of long elongated, but the way they fit them in, and they edited them, they did such a good job with it too. And it works really, really, really well with each panel. Again, highly recommended. All three volumes are now available, and these have been one of our highest sellers, both on the book world, the bookstore world, and big stores everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah.
My next pick warms my heart. This is
Yes.
Kanto, and by David Bauer. And I cried after reading the first volume. That's how
Hmm.
affected I was with it. It's such a heartwarming story. To tell you a little bit about it, we have the race of 10 people who are enslaved, and their slavers take apart their bodies, remove their hearts, and replaces it with clocks. And there's this like one particular scene in the beginning that I want to describe for you because I think this will clinch it, because it gave me such like superhero, like you'll see what I mean, but like the main character describes this world, how they're forbidden to care for each other. They're forbidden to have names. They're forbidden to feel, to love. But then there's the scene where he shifts and he says, "But I care, I feel, and I love, and I have a name, and my name is Kanto." And then when I saw that panel, I'm like, yes, say your name. And it's such a heartwarming story because you have this main character who loves to tell this legend about this knight saving a princess, whereas Kanto is trying to save his loved one. And you see like the actions of that legend in a particular panel side by side with the actions of Kanto, and you'll see like both streams of storylines sort of kind of like running in parallel in particular pages. Very well done. It's such a beautiful story. I can't say enough how much I love this, and I hope you pick it up as well.
Yes. Very, very cool. Next, we're um, going to a manga, a classic manga at that. The Parasite Full Color Collection #1, Hitoshi Iwaki. Uh, you know, Parasite is one of my favorite mangas of all time. And on top of that, the anime is one of my favorite animes of all time. Uh, we're not going to talk about the live action adaptations, but we definitely, the manga and the anime are so cool. And I highly recommend that you read the manga, and I highly recommend that you watch the anime. And I love that these editions that now we did it without Attack on Titan, and now we're doing Parasite. It kind of gives you not just the story and the manga, but it gives it to you in color. And this is one of those stories that definitely had to be kind of turned into color to appreciate it even more. If you don't know the story, it's just very basic. There's the main character. One day he wakes up and there's these two eyes on his hands. Is this alien took over his hand, and he tells him that he's supposed to like completely take over and basically kill him, and that's what they do. But he decides, no, you know what, I'm gonna stick with you. Let's see how this goes, and they actually sort of create this bond, and then the alien starts helping him kind of defend the world against these other aliens that are doing the same thing. They're taking over people's bodies and killing them. It is very creepy. It is. There's a lot of action. There's also kind of it's heartwarming also, and it's very rare when you see something that is basically it's a horror manga, and you have a lot of heart and there's a lot of the philosophy of them talking to each other, and how much the alien kind of trying to learn about what human nature is, but also him trying to learn about himself and who he is. So it's really cool. Highly recommended. I also, like I mentioned, there's also volume one and volume two for Attack on Titan, and they collect the best sort of they pick highlights of the best of the series, um, and they're awesome. Yes.
My next pick,
Mhm.
very
Yes.
popular. This is
Yeah.
Catwoman, Lonely City, of course, written and illustrated by Cliff Chang. This is fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love it because we have an older Selena who is like out of prison. Basically, Selena in this story was in prison because of the events that happened on Fool's Night. Fool's Night, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Fool's Night had killed a bunch of superheroes and villains as well. So, killing Batman, Joker, unfortunately, Commissioner Gordon, Nightwing, to name a few. This is known
Yeah.
in the
That's at
beginning.
the
It's
beginning. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very beginning. Um, what I like about this, as Hector and I talked about this, we like how there's a mystery surrounding what happens on Fool's Night. So you're like piecing together what happened in the past, what's happening present day, and you're going along with this mystery as Selena is just encountering this new Gotham City after, I think, like a decade in prison, and how Gotham City has changed drastically. And the mayor, who is now the mayor, when she gets out, is Harvey Dent, and there is obvious corruption there, or
Yeah.
and the story commences from there. So highly recommend, as always, Cliff Chang, beautiful art. So this is something that you definitely want to pick up if you haven't already.
Yeah. And now for something completely different,
Yeah.
and it's one of my picks. Is the box set one for Rent a Girlfriend, the manga, by Reiji Miyajima. Um, this is a very heartwarming story. For this one, I actually watched the anime first, and then I got so interested that I started reading the manga. They're both amazing, and the second season's coming soon. You know, I forget when, but it's very soon. This is, it's one of those where you see the title and you think you know what it is, but you definitely don't know what it is. This is extremely heartwarming, and it's about this guy, this boy, teenager who, you know, is a loner. He lives by himself, like in many stories in manga. A boy who lives by himself, and and then next door, his next door neighbor is, he sort of doesn't have a relationship, but then all of a sudden he realized that she's a rent a girlfriend, and you can pay her just to hang out and just not to feel lonely. And there's a lot about, loneliness, a lot about friendship, and a lot about obviously relationships, but more on the platonic side. And it's very cool manga. I highly recommend it, and it's very popular. Also why I put it on this list. And these box sets are amazing too, because this one includes uh, obviously, it's volume 1 to 6 of Rent a Girlfriend, but it's two extra large reversible posters in a premium rigid box, and of course with beautiful art on the box. So it makes an amazing Christmas present, and it is available November 8th, or it was available, or already went on sale as the time of this recording, and it's only 77.94, which is a great price for 6 volumes in one. It's all good.
Hmm. Next up, I have to talk about this. This is
Yes.
great. This is Dark Ages by Tom Taylor. I love the world that is was created in this one. The Unmaker is unleashed, and the superheroes try to contain the disaster that's about to happen. But what happens is the EMP knocks basically the entire world into darkness, to the Dark Ages, as the title implies. I like this because you get to see how creative uh, the because technology is has failed at this point. You get to see how they like use steam powered or like are what we consider as like archaic technology to
Hmm.
sort of see how these people function now, these superheroes function without the high technology that they're used to seeing. So incredibly unique of a story, I think, and I just absolutely loved it. This is something that you definitely want to read, and one of the well, one of my picks for 2020.
Yes. Next is one of my picks is Spider Gwenverse by Tim Seeley, illustrated by Jolie Nishijima. This goes on sale November 22nd, and it's just fun. I love the character when the multiverse versions of it, because growing up with reading Marvel, Gwen has always been this tragic character. And then when they came up with the story of, in an alternate universe, it could be that she's the one that gets bitten by the spider, and Peter Parker actually, keeps being a nerd, but they're friends. And it could be that his death kind of triggers her to become you know, uh, a superhero. But also it has all this story that she had that you could follow. And then lately, obviously, there's been a lot of since then there's been a lot of multiverse uh, versions of many characters, starting with Spider-Man, right? And now we see her here. This is the second time that we see it with her, but in a bigger miniseries, how all these different versions from around the multiverse of uh, Gwen, they come together, to fight one particular evil, And in here in this cover by the amazing David Nakayama, which we're both really big fans of, you can see the obviously a Spider-Gwen version, the Wolverine version, the Captain American Gwen version, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, etc. So it's a very fun book. I really enjoyed it. The art is amazing too. Jordan Nishiyama does an amazing job with all the illustrations inside. Highly recommended. And it's 17.99. on a trade paperback. It's awesome, and it comes out, like I said, November 22nd.
Next up,
Oh wow,
if you've been following us for a while, you probably have heard me talked about Skip and Loafer multiple
yes,
times.
many times.
So there are several volumes out. So you'll see the first three here, and then following that up until volume 6, which that's going to come out on November 29th. This is by Mizaki Takamatsu. Now this is just a lot of fun. That's why I like it. The faces of these characters, iconic.
Yes.
It's really about this main character, Mitsumi, who's a country girl who wants to chase after her dreams. So she goes to Tokyo, goes to school in Tokyo. She's book smart, but like is very unprepared for like city life, social norms. And it's funny because she she because she doesn't really understand social norms that well, she's seen as quirky and interesting, and people are just like, especially this potential romantic lead
Yeah.
sees her as very interesting as well. It's just a lot of fun going through and reading these volumes as they're coming out, so highly
Yes.
recommend.
And next up is Super Trash Clash by Edgar Camacho. Edgar, if you don't know who Edgar is, he's an amazing artist from Mexico. He has, an amazing blog and obviously social media that you should follow immediately. And he has, this is the second time he does, a story with a graphic novel with IDW. And this one, it's sort of a nostalgic story about this little girl who, when she wanted this video game, and her mom notices that she wants this, she loves video games, and she gives her as a present like the worst game that's out there at the moment. And she's like, "Oh, thank you, mom. That's an amazing game." And she's like, not sure that she wants it or likes it. But then she starts playing it, and then she starts discovering throughout playing the game the fun of games, that it doesn't matter if it's a good or bad game. It's just, the fun of games, and then to share it with friends, and to have adventures within these video games. And it's just a love letter to video games and to kids growing up with video games. And that's all there is to it. Beautiful illustrations too. If you are a gamer, I highly recommend for you to read this. It's kind of a small format. It's 14.99 trade paperback, and it goes on sale November 29th.
Mhm. Next up is Killing Stalking. This is the deluxe edition, volume 1. There will
Yeah.
be a volume 2, obviously, so it's going to continually come out. This is by Kugi. And this took me by surprise because at first I'm like, what am I reading? I'm like, what is this? And I got scared, and it made me like, I was on the edge of my seat reading this, and I'm like, should I be reading this? But I kept reading it because it's so addicting, and it's like it's a guilty pleasure, and I really love it. And it has an entire fan base that also loves this as well, so it's incredibly popular. The manhwa, now we have the physical release here that you can get. It's basically like you follow this main character, Yunbum, who you think is like a creep because he stalks this guy that he's obsessed with. And
Yeah.
turns out that the guy that he's stalking is a serial killer. So like he gets like tied up, can't escape. It's very violent. Yeah, it's like it's definitely there's a lot going on here, but like
Mhm.
very intriguing as well. Again, it takes a lot for me to get kind of scared and on edge. And this is like one of the manhwas that did it for me. Like I was fully like unsure what was gonna happen next and had to read more. So yeah.
Very cool. Next up is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. Obviously, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird got together with Tom Waltz, and Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird did the first 100 issues of the original run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with IDW, and they got together and created the story. It's sort of you know in the future, there's a battle and New York gets decimated, and one of the turtles survives, and now this turtle is sort of traveling around looking for vengeance for the death of his family, but also he becomes this legendary Ronin. And it's a very the Ninja Turtles have always been this amazing quirky premise combined with seriousness, and it brings in a lot of like the superhero genre, but also the obviously the samurai genre. And this is basically it's like the Akira Kurosawa version of the last of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, more gritty, more although the current run of Ninja Turtles it's very gritty, but this is even grittier than that. And then he has become so popular. This collects the all the single issues. I think it's like five
I think
or
it's five.
six, five of
Yeah.
them into one. And then it's so popular, it became it was nominated for an Eisner Award. It New York Times bestseller for a long time, as when it came out when this came out in July. So I think it's still on the list actually, and it's we're gonna see more stories. IDW has already announced there's gonna be a prequel sort of story series to this. So and there's a lot of it's amazing because Ninja Turtles is so really such a big world, but now with this, it kind of expanded that world beyond what was already in the comics and the movies, and it's great. And it's as a kid who played with Ninja Turtles growing up, I got to tell you, this one really got me excited when it came out, and now this collection is amazing too. Highly, highly recommended. Hardcover. This is hardcover, 29.99. I think you should grab this in hardcover before. I don't know if they're going to continue doing it in hardcover, but that's the format that you should get this. This is how epic this is.
Mhm.
So there it is.
Yes. Uh,
Another one of yours.
Yes, of course, I had to include this. It's the Sweat and Soap. This is the manga box set. It collects like the first half of the series, so volumes 1 to 6. This
Yeah.
includes scented stickers, which I think is amazing
Yeah.
because it fits with the story. I love the
Yes.
attention to detail. This is, if you're anything like me, I read this, so you can too in this box set. It's such a weird story, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't these covers, like, ooh," like, it looks, like, sensual and, but it's, like, more than that. It's such an interesting story because you have, like, a main character who is, like, insecure about sweating a lot and is basically revolving her life around, making sure that, she is cleanly and she smells nice, and yet we have this, like, basically this scent prodigy who like smells her, and it causes inspiration for him to create new products for the company that they both work at. So it's like a very weird but
Yeah.
also like cute story between these two characters. There's also a live action of this as well if you're curious, but yeah, obviously we're gonna have the second part box set 2 coming up later. This actually got pushed back, this first box set, to December 20th. But just so that you're aware, and yeah, definitely, definitely, it's great. I love this
It's
so
awesome.
much.
Yes. Next is The Human Target, Volume 1 by Tom King, illustrated by Greg Smallwood. This is by far one of my favorite stories. Started coming out in single issues last year, and still going on. This collects. It's going to be 12 issue miniseries. This collects the first six. And this follows Christopher Chance, the human target, who you can hire to take your place if you think you're somebody's trying to kill you. And that's what Lex Luthor did. And it kind of, there was an attempt, kind of, in an event, and it was, Christopher Chance was able to foil it, but then he realizes that somebody poisoned him, thinking that it was Lex Luthor. And the suspects are the Justice League International. So all the superheroes in the Justice League International, it could have been it, he knows it's one of them, and he starts investigating his own death, and he has 12 days to solve this murder because he's dying. It's a very it's Black Label, obviously. It's for adults, so it's a classic pulpy crime story. Um, but then you have all these amazing characters like Fire from the Justice League is in there, Eyes, Martian Manhunter, Booster Gold, um, all these other characters, and they're all suspect, and he has to uh, he has to investigate them, and every time he investigates one, that leads him to another one, and that leads him to another one. I don't want to give away anything because it's a very good mystery. I don't know the ending because the last issue hasn't come out yet, and it's really, really good. And on top of that, the art by Greg Smallwood is so beautiful. It is um, sort of very kind of like the tones that you see here. It sort of looks like in some parts like you can see the brush strokes almost, or it looks a little bit like pencil in others. But it's a lot of colors, and it is again a very cool story. uh, a deep mystery, but also has a little bit of romance in it, has action in it, and the character, Christopher Chance is just, if you're a fan of, you know, James Bond or some of these detectives from the 40s and the 50s and novels, that's what you get with this story. Highly, highly recommended. And it's already, this one is already on sale. It's only $29.99 hardcover, and then next year we'll get the second and final volume that will complete the story.
Next up is
Yeah.
the Flintstones, the deluxe edition. This is by Mark Russell. So I've been waiting for this for a really long time because when this first came out in trade paperback, I was like, huh, let me let me wait for this to come out because I was hoping that it was gonna come out, but like it took years later
Yeah,
for
it
it
took
to come out.
forever.
It took
Yeah.
forever, but finally, I actually have it, I think, around me somewhere, but I have to like wheel away for it for me to get it. But I love it so much. This warranted deluxe edition hardcover, at least for me, to have the art portrayed in like a little bit of a bigger format because not only is it just interesting reading through, but the art itself, the hidden gems that you could see as you're looking in the background, that's hilarious. It's just such a great story. Um, this was this was unique for me when I read it because I never imagined something like the Flintstones could have like such a like social political message. It talks about capitalism as well, and you're kind of like, what is going on here? Like the Flintstones, like this is like the last thing I'd ever imagine when reading this, but like I was in awe when I first picked this up. So definitely, if you're gonna read it, this is a good collection to pick it up in.
Great. And then we have the Sandman. And I know that Sandman's been around for a long time, and we had so many editions, but this year with the live action adaptation coming to Netflix, DC decided to do these trade paperback editions and sort of reorganize the stories within it. So each one, it kind of it's going to be a 5 volume collection, and it at a great price because each one of these is 29.99. And just so you know, the first one collects everything you need to know for the first season that came out earlier this year on Netflix. And the second season has been, greenlit. So, that's book two. Hopefully we get 5 seasons of it. Uh, I don't have to talk about Salmon. I think everybody knows what Salmon is, who Neil Gaiman is. I just think this is a great, great opportunity to sort of collect it if you haven't yet, in a very amazing way with beautiful covers, and it's gonna look really cool when you have all 5 of them together in one on a shelf. Uh, like I said, these are coming out. I believe we have all of these already out. Yes, up to number 4. And like I said earlier, early next year we have number 5 coming out.
Hmm. As a clarification, 20.99 for the first volume, but
Ah, yes.
34.99 for the additional volumes, which I
Thank you.
still think is a great price
It
because
is a very good price.
the amount
Yeah.
of pages that you get per book. I say
Yeah.
volume, but they're calling these
Yeah.
book 1 to 4, is amazing value for what you get. So.
Yes, and just so you know, I have in front of me what the book 4 has, and it's issues 57 to 75,
Yeah.
and then on top of that you have Vertical Jam number 1 and Dust covers, the collected Sandman covers. It's in that
Hmm.
one. So each one not only has a certain amount of the single issues from the original run, but they also include, like, I know the first one includes Nocturnes and I forget the whole thing, but it has some of the short stories in there too included. So each one includes a little bit more than just single issue continuation. So at the end, you will have, when we say we have the whole collection, the whole Salmon collection, really, basically. The original one by Neil Gaiman. Yes.
Next up, I mean, it can't
Yeah.
be a top list of 2022 without these.
Yeah, the
So,
Tokyo Revengers.
yeah, with Tokyo Revengers, we have these omnibus volumes, the 2-in-1s, by Ken Waku. And these are, I mean, fans have been waiting for physical edition for a very long time. And then the
Yes.
announcement when this came out, people were going crazy over these. And so I love both reading the manga as well as watching the anime, which is very excellent as well. Um, just very briefly, I'm sure a lot of people know about this already, but we have the main character Takamichi, who is kind of a lazy bum. He's very endearing, and you kind of relate to him. He's like, I get it. Life gets rough, and he's at that stage in his life where he's like, what am I doing? But he sees on the news that his former ex-girlfriend is killed, and in a series of circumstances he gets pushed, if I remember correctly, into um train tracks, and time sort of does this weird thing, and he like gets transported back into his like middle school body, and he's like, what's with my hair, my clothes? But the funny thing is, middle school years was his prime time. So
Yeah.
like he's like, oh, I'm cool again. And you get to see like the relationship that he forms with gang members, when you're thinking like, oh, gang members, but like there's just like this family aspect to it, the friendship. It's such a great story, and something that you should definitely, if you haven't read it,
Yeah.
definitely also watch the anime as well. It's great.
Yes.
Mhm.
Definitely. Very, very cool. And that's it for this list. Thank you for sticking out to the end. I hope we hope that you enjoy this list. Like I said at the beginning, these are our picks, so these are our opinions. In no way they reflect the opinions of Penguin Random House, its imprints, or its distribution clients. Um, we do a lot of a lot of videos, and we put them here at least once a week. We do a video of picks. If you're not watching those yet, we invite you to do so. And we also have social media where we post news and things about the products that Penguin Random House has to offer the direct market. So there will be links on the description of the video. Thank you so much again. We hope you come back. Thanks.
And tell us your favorites of
Oh
2023 in the
yeah, please
comments as well.
comment
We'd like
and
to
let us know
know.
your favorites for sure.
And it's not a competition, but who did better?
Well, you can do that too.
I guess we could do that too. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.